Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are returning back to the My Favorite LJN tournament. We are currently on episode 38. So winding down to the conclusion of the first round of the tournament. So not a whole lot going on in life right now, so there's not going to be a lot of chatter prior to diving into the main focus of today's video for the tournament. But, oh man, dude, do you guys see what's going on in the YouTube community right now? I don't know what Kick is. I guess it's like another YouTube type of thing or whatnot. When they start talking about like these different video streaming sites, like what's the other one called? That video game playing one. Is it called Discord? Again, man, outside of YouTube, I mean, that's really all I know. When they start talking about like Discord and Kick, I don't know what that crap is. And when they start, I mean, TikTok, yeah, fine. I'll put TikTok up there with YouTube. At least I know what those are. But all this other stuff, Jack Doherty. You start hearing these names like Neon, Jack Doherty. I don't know who the hell these kids are. Like, I only know of them because some of, the content creators that I watch, they'll discuss them because they're always acting a fool and they're always giving good content for other people to talk about. So those commentary YouTubers that I watch have a lot of good stuff, and it's not just them; it's a bunch of other YouTubers talk about those stories as well. So this kid's 20 years old, driving around with a $200,000 car. And this is what irritates me about today's world. So you get on like YouTube and TikTok, and it pisses me off when I kind of see, guys come up to these women and they ask them, so how much money should your man make? And the girl responds, $200,000 a month. Not a year, but a month. I'm like, dude, you tell me that a man's making 70 grand a year, and I'm like, you know what? He's doing very well for himself. So, and then I kind of look at these 18-year-old kids, 20-year-old kids making YouTube money, TikTok money, Discord money, whatever, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. Mr. Beast doing his thing. I'm like, no wonder all these modern day women are thinking that everybody should be multimillionaires. All you gotta do is sit around and film yourself being stupid, and you're getting millions of views and probably banking like crazy. So, but guys, if I ever have to do that in life where I start live streaming myself on a daily basis for views, or if I ever get to that point in life where I have to make a complete jackass of myself, actually, shoot, man, I don't know. You start throwing millions of dollars at me, and I might be tempted to make a total douchebag of myself in order to do so. But I don't know, man. I just clout chasing, I don't think is my cup of tea. So doing what I do here on YouTube, making these sort of videos, if I end up down the road, if I stop 10 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever, next year, if I end up with a couple thousand subscribers, whatnot, I think I'll be satisfied with that. But now the whole Jack Doherty thing is a big thing on YouTube. So anyone who is interested in those stories, definitely try and look it up. Jack Doherty crash. It's a sickness. It really is. Clout chasing is a sickness. Putting your whole life on camera for what? For views, for commentary. You're putting yourself and your passengers in your lives in jeopardy to read comments on your phone while it's raining on a highway, high rate of speed. I'm like, stupid. I've seen freaking soldiers get killed for doing crap like that in better conditions, texting and driving. So, lucky son of a gun. That's all I gotta say with that one. Yeah, like I said, not a whole lot going on in my personal life right now that's going to be a whole lot of chatter. So we are going to dive into today's video, and we are on episode, or round 1, part 38. So as you can see, we are nearly complete. And shoot, we may not even need 40 videos. We might get this done in 39 videos. But let's see. First matchup today is No Shirt Hogan from Random Treasures. And he is going to do battle against Blue Vince. Next matchup is going to feature the Butch Reed Special Custom. That is the new one I just got in. I think the woman's name is Stacy. eBay screen name is like Mommy V's or something like that. And it's gonna that Butch Reed is gonna take on Sergeant Slaughter from Wrestling Writer. Next matchup is going to feature from Random Treasures Mil Mascaris as he does battle against Brian Pillman. And last matchup is going to feature Coco Red and White from the Raider Nation, I believe. KL for Kenny Lester. Yep, so that's a Raider Nation figure. And he's going to square off against Mike Sharp from Ram Treasures. Alright, so name's drawn. I will be back momentarily and we will begin the tournament, or begin the this video's matchups. Alright. So first matchup, as I said, was the No Shirt Hogan, and he is going to square off against Blue Vince. This is your first matchup. We will begin with Hulk Hogan. So one of the biggest things I will keep saying about these figures, and I guess because I have so many Series 5 customs, and every time Ram Treasures does another type of custom in regards to Hulk Hogan, they use the Series 5, and it's understandable. Series 5 Hogan, in terms of value, I mean, yeah, the Series 5 Hogan is a better figure in terms of value and in terms of thickness and appearance-wise. Yeah, it does. I do understand that it is a better aesthetic-looking figure. Nothing will ever take away from what a Series 1 Hogan does for you. A Series 1 Hogan, I always look at it from the mindset of playability and serviceability, and there are very few, if any, figures that can ever match up to a legitimate Series 1 Hulk Hogan. So when I look at the Rip'em Hulk Hogan, right, or the Made in America white shirt Hulk Hogan, I'm like, okay, you're taking you've already created the white shirt, red shirt Series 5 Hogans, and you've given your version of it a much more cheaper, affordable version, especially red shirt. I've said on eBay, an original red shirt Hulk Hogan, even with the most faded red, where it's practically skin tone, you're still going to pay about $200 because the red shirt it's so rare. White shirt, pretty good shape. You're going to look at about $75 to $125 figure. So, you want like a mint condition. You're going to pay $130 through Ram Treasures, the same way you would for any other figure. So, it was nice to get those two figures. And of course, you throw the Rip'em in there. It's like, okay, great. You throw in the other white shirt Made in America. Awesome. But then you throw in this variant. And then you add in the Ichiban New Japan Pro Wrestling Hogan. It's like, well, did you really need these last two Hogans? The white shirt, red shirt Series 5 Hogan was necessity because it's exact same figure. Yes, it's a playable or in-ring Hogan that you're used to. But is it necessary? That shirt gives him that extra aesthetic. It gives you the extra graphics. So But kind of talking about the Ichiban Hogan when he came up in in a earlier video, I really didn't realize how much I really loved that figure, and I knew I always enjoyed the figure, even though it was a recycled Series 5. And even when I looked at this figure and I got a new black belt and I put him on him, and I'm like, you know what? Looking at the figure, I'm like, there's just certain figures that you really gotta really pay close attention to. So you're like, maybe I am a little bit more excited that Random Treasures did come out with this figure. Yes, I get it. If I would have preferred most definitely that they came out with a completely different character, one that doesn't already exist in the LJN world. If Ram Treasures was closing up shop, saying, hey, we've put out 75 figures, 100 figures, 125, 300 figures over 10 years or what have you, and we have no more figures left to give. But you know what? We've got this Series 5 Hogan. We got plenty of molds. We got this new head mold. We could simply slap that on there. We want to give our fans one last idea. That would have been something. That would have been something different. That would have made a lot more sense in my eyes. I would have been okay with that, I guess. So I guess timing is everything. Otherwise, this really wouldn't be, a bad idea. And like I said, it does give you that in-ring look of Hogan, and it really is a spectacular figure. And whether you're going with this one, yes, I prefer the Ichiban based on colors, which are so awesome. They really stand out. This is Hogan from childhood. Got it. Head sculpt looks amazing. And that Ichiban Hogan, even when you compare it to my custom Series 1 Hogan, either figure really works. And with so many, but the thing also got me is because I have so many Series 5 custom Hulk Hogans. I probably got like 10 different Series 5 Hogans, not even including any of the Random Treasure figures. So getting more Series 5, if it was a different body pose, that would have definitely made it even so much better. But it's just this particular pose, this body, which kind of, I guess, when I first saw it, and then, just like any other figure, I had to buy it. Because, you're supporting a good company, and you want it for the collection as well. Keep your collection going strong, so. If you're a Hulk Hogan fan, you want the figure. It's as simple as that. Vince McMahon, I will always complain about Ron Simmons and the fused arm to the chest, bam, right? But I don't really ever complain, not really, not a lot, about Vince McMahon and his fused arm to the chest. People want to complain about Rick Rude and his arms right there on his waist for LJN. Oh, it's the worst action figure ever made. You know what? It's rubber. It's 8 inches. It's bigger. It's nice. It's got nice pants. But nobody really wants to say anything about the original San Francisco Macho Man figures. Whether you're looking at the multicolored version or the black and white Macho Man, same figure, different color scheme, same, basically got the same pose. Hands on the waist, arms fused to the side type of deal. I kind of argue that those are probably the worst figures ever made, but from the LJN line, I don't even think that Rick Rude is really even my least favorite figure anymore. I think he's probably second or third, and that's only because of pose. But Vince McMahon, whether you're looking at the gray suit, if you're looking at yellow suit, if you're looking at his one-of-one figure, blue suit, red suit, it don't matter. I really enjoy the Vince McMahon figures. And even though he's got that fused arm, the one thing that he has that the WCW Glue Ron Simmons doesn't have is an actual playable arm. Even with the finger up, you can still use him as a playable wrestling action figure if you choose. He's still got a punch, and you know what? Arm up even like so, you can still use it as a clothesline, right? And you've got a pretty spectacular body slam pose, right? So I've never had any issues, not really, with the Vince McMahon. And I think most kids weren't viewing Vince McMahon as someone who was going to wrestle like they would in the latter half of the 90s. Now, if you were in watching wrestling in the 90s and you still had these figures, or maybe your older brother, or maybe your parents, if you were a really young kid and your parents were young kids or middle-aged kids or teenagers in the 80s and they had these and they passed them down, maybe you would have. But I honestly don't think, unless you grew up with these in the 80s, I don't think any kids in the 90s are playing with these. Just my personal belief. My answer is going to be Hulk Hogan, but this is a lot closer matchup than you might believe. So I think Vince McMahon, no matter which variant you go with, should be 2 rounds, 3 rounds easy. So first round elimination is never easy for a figure like this. But Ram Treasures Hulk Hogan, like I said, is moving on to the next round. Next one is going to be Special Butch Reed as he does battle against Sergeant Slaughter. Butch Reed and Sergeant Slaughter. We'll start with Butch Reed. So, I'm trying to look at the Galoob 2-Up that I have right a little bit to my side here, and I think it's relatively the same figure. So, in the description, they said part resin, part rubber. Now, this does obviously move. Now, the hand feels tight, so the arms feel like they could be resin, but the bottom is... Now, what it could have done is, this could have been like a SD Jones figure, and they could have cut off the arms and put like the Butch Reed from Galoob type arms on there. Fabricated a new vest onto the body. But no, this can't be, because this body is, I think it's too slim to be an SD Jones figure. So, again, I'm not an artist. I'm kind of looking at the figure over, and I'm trying to see how they could have done it. Because I'm looking at the arms, and I'm not seeing like any cuts where they would have gone over the figure. And I'm looking around the head, and I'm not seeing any color differentiation where they may have removed the head or whatnot. And I think even SD Jones, I think even his legs are spread just a shade further apart. So I'm going to assume that maybe somebody took a Galoob 2-Up, possibly, but why would these be resin right here? So that's kind of weird. But the natural Butch Reed, you've seen my custom SD Jones, where all they did was take a regular red shirt, SD Jones blue trunks, paint his hair blonde, make a few color changes or a few paint add-ons here and there. That figure, I just bought it because, one, it's SD Jones, and two, it was just another custom to add to the collection. But it did speak to me? No. It was a very cheap, affordable figure, and because I was buying so many figures from the seller, I'm like, you know what, let me just throw this in there. As a SD Jones figure, yeah, that alone could make it go far, but you're not looking at it as SD Jones, you're looking at that one as a Butch Reed, right? And from that perspective, no, that figure was no more than a one and done type of figure, regardless of who he went up against. Now this, when I talk about bona fide, legitimate contenders, and this is among all the figures, this is my newest acquisition. Like, I just got this figure within like the last week. So, and the fact that I'm able to add this right here at the tail end of this first round, and I've always said, any new acquisitions, as long as I get them in before the first round ends, I will be able to include them in this tournament. And now I have another frontline contender to win this tournament, because this is a really incredible piece. Now, I think Butch Reed, the LJN or the Gloop 2-Up, I think was eliminated, and that one was a freaking tough one. Now, I think he was eliminated by Barry Windham, and I said that both of those figures could have been Series 5 figures, potentially. Same matchup, Barry Windham versus Butch Reed. I don't know, maybe this difference of color scheme is enough to push him over the top to defeat Barry Windham. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe Barry Windham still wins. Unless I'm actually holding him up and talking about him, it's kind of hard to say. But when I say bona fide, legitimate contenders, absolutely. Now, this is the Wrestling Writer, Sergeant Slaughter. We did see a Sergeant Slaughter like this one earlier in this tournament, and it was just like a plain green shirt figure that I got from Nathan over at Ohio Figures. Now, when I bought this figure, Eric, he did make some changes, like, add on like the drill sergeant rank, or what is that, like gunnery sergeant? I don't know Marine ranks, so I'm just speculating. And it's funny because, like, Marines, they actually study like all the other branches and know all their ranks and everything. But this is the figure I was talking about that Eric kind of made me mad when he was talking about this figure. I've said before, the mail away, what was it, 1987 mail away Hasbro LJN style of Sergeant Slaughter. If I were to include that figure in this tournament, it would be probably a no-brainer. That would probably be my winner, because I absolutely love that figure. Now, they don't make Sergeant Slaughter to be like his real-life self. They make him like this. They make him like his cartoon self, right? They make him like this over-the-top, John Cena-esque, super soldier, special forces-esque, bodybuilder type figure. And that's fine. And so when Eric was talking about, well, that really shitty LJN Sergeant Slaughter or that really shitty Hasbro Sergeant Slaughter, and in here you got a real Sergeant Slaughter, I'm like, I was mad at him for saying that. I'm like, dude, you took a Nikolai Volkov and called it a Sergeant Slaughter. How dare you? And how dare you bash that beautiful LJN or Hasbro LJN style Sergeant Slaughter, that fantastic piece. But because it's made by Hasbro, not LJN, it's the reason why it does not get included in this tournament ever. But great graphics, fantastic fighting pose. I really like the look of the figure. And yeah, I do think it could be a legitimate winner in this tournament if I ever did include it. When I first got this figure, I'm like, yeah. I bought it because it was a Wrestling Writer figure, and I was buying everything from him. It didn't really appeal to me. I think the first time, maybe, when I did a tournament, I looked it over. Maybe then I started feeling a little bit differently. And there are aspects about the figure that I really enjoy. And yes, it is done really well. When you look at it, you do see more than just Nikolai Volkov's face. You do kind of see Sergeant Slaughter a little bit. And with the bald head and everything, the camo shirt, right? And you even throw in the Warrior purple belt. Come on. The jungle boots. It is really done really well. This cannot win this tournament. I know that. Is this a round 2 figure? Yes. Could this make it to round 3? Yeah. I could see this as a round 3 figure. Round 4, I don't know. I don't know if I see this as a round 4. Like I said, round 4, you start getting into the best of the best, and I don't know if I could put it that high up. Is it possible? Sure. But I think this probably tops out at maybe round 3. I still say that this Butch Reed is a potential candidate to win this tournament. So, at the end of the day, this gives you the best opportunity to go a lot further in this tournament. So, Butch Reed is going to defeat Sergeant Slaughter. Next matchup is going to feature Brian Pillman as he does battle against Mil Mascaris. Both figures come from Ram Treasures, and we will start with Mil Mascaris. Now, I do believe that Mil Mascaris, finally, there were figures from Ram Treasures. Once upon a time, when they came out with the figure, bam, within moments, I was buying it up. They came out with Ultimate Warrior. I'm like, I really I love the figure, but I had an Ultimate Warrior. There was a fantastic LJN Ultimate Warrior. Why would you make another Ultimate Warrior? Give us somebody different. I don't know if it was later, a few minutes later, a few hours later, a few days. I'm assuming within minutes, but it wasn't like immediately within seconds of buying it up that I purchased that Warrior. Then they came out with with the Rick Rude. I'm like, I understand a new Rick Rude. The original one wasn't all that great. But if you're going to come out with the new Rick Rude, I wanted the most splendid Rick Rude ever, and it just wasn't. So yeah, I did not immediately jump on that Rick Rude. Again, did it take weeks and weeks, months? No. A day, a few hours, a few hours a day, a couple days. I don't remember, but it didn't take long. But like it wasn't within seconds of seeing it on the Etsy shop. After that, I don't know. It's hard to remember figure by figure. I'm thinking Tully Blanchard was probably the next one. And I think the only reason I bought Tully Blanchard as quickly as I did was probably because I think 80s Revolution was doing his little contest and whatnot. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy this figure at some point anyways. So I might as well buy it now and see if I can win. But I'm assuming that this figure came out probably shortly thereafter. And this was probably the very first figure that I did not buy immediately. I did not buy it within seconds of seeing it. I did not buy it within weeks of seeing it. In fact, this was probably on Ram Treasure's site for months, a year or so. Close to a year. I don't know. I know at one point I got on PayPal and I bought I bought like 6 or 7 figures all at one time from her. So I went through PayPal so that she could get all the money and didn't have to lose money through Etsy. So all these figures that I wasn't buying because I just simply wasn't interested in them. Mil Mascaris being one of them. Mike Sharp being another. Ivan Putski being another one of those, for example. So this was the figure that started the downturn, and there was a period where I'm like, shoot, it just seems like every figure that was coming out, I just was not a fan of. I did not grow up watching Mil Mascaris. I did not know anything about who Mil Mascaris was. I know Eric, Wrestling Rider, I know he came out with his variant of Mil Mascaris. It was resin, so that kind of turned me away from buying from him. But he had a really good variant. It was like $60 he wanted for it. But again, it was resin. And I knew eventually, and I prefer the rubber figures. I will buy resin on occasion, but I want the rubber figures first and foremost. And I knew I was going to buy this from Ram Treasures eventually. It was going to take some time. And it was a fine figure. I mean, it wasn't anything wrong with it. I mean, it's a fantastic paint job. It's just that when I looked at it, it was just Iron Sheik. And you guys know Iron Sheik, LJN to me was a top 5 least favorite LJN figure. Bad fighting pose. today I'm feeling a little bit different about the Iron Sheik. I mean, I don't feel it's as bad as I once gave it credit for. I still don't think it's outside the top 10 worst LJNs, but is it a top 5 still? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Now watching YouTube, yeah, I've seen a couple matches of Mil Mascaras. I've seen a Royal Rumble where he eliminated himself because he thought it was beneath him to be eliminated by somebody else. I'm like, that's kind of like unprofessional. I'm like, wow. And the way I looked at it is like, shoot, man, Mil Mascaras. I mean, like I said, there's an Iron Sheik figure. You go on eBay, spend $3 for an Iron Sheik figure, get it repainted. I mean, $30 to turn an Iron Sheik into this, pay someone to do it. So I wasn't eager, but eventually, like I said, I did do that mass purchase and bought the figure. And am I mad about it? No. Am I happy about it? It's another nice figure to add to the collection. I think I would have been a little bit happier if I knew more about Mil Mascaras. Again, a lot of these 80s characters, I know very little. While it's Samoans, I didn't know a whole lot about. I'm just kind of looking at the shelves right now, and I'm looking at guys like Mike Sharp, Mil Mascaras, Tully Blanchard, because I didn't know a lot about Brainbusters, right? Well, it's Samoans, Steve Williams. So you're looking at these names, and I'm like, I don't know who these guys are. So, yeah, I buy the figures, but I buy the figures to support Ram Treasures. I buy the figures because I want them for the collection. But the names, they don't mean anything to me. But a good figure is a good figure. So you will buy it because you want to enjoy that awesome piece of art. Now, he does go against Flying Brian Pillman. It's nice when you kind of hear these shoot interviews with Bret Hart, and he talks about people who should be in the Wrestling Hall of Fame, and he talks about like the Hart Foundation, and he always includes Brian Pillman as part of the Hart family. Like, you don't just hear him say, okay, me and Owen, or you don't hear him say, me and Jim for the Hart Foundation, or the Hart family talking about maybe adding in, his brother-in-law. I think Jim Neidhart was also a brother-in-law, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. I don't remember. But I think Jim Neidhart was a brother-in-law. I know Davey Boy was definitely a brother-in-law, married to his sister Diana. Brian Pillman, I'm trying to think. I know he was part of their faction later on, towards the tail end of the 90s. I can't remember. I think he wrestled under Stu Hart or whatnot, but I don't remember if he was like married to like any of the daughters or anything. So he was definitely part of the faction of the Hart Foundation, but I don't remember if he was like related or whatnot. I'd have to look that up. But Brian Pillman, like, I didn't really watch a lot of WCW. I mean, like I said, WCW growing up for me was something that when you're flipping through the channels and maybe WCW's on and you catch a few matches, or you go to like Kmart or Ventures or something, and you get these VHSs of like the best of Hulkamania or something, right? But instead of Hulkamania, you get like the best of Sting. And you catch a lot of these matches, like strap matches with Sting versus Vader, stuff like that. So you catch a lot of those type matches. And I've always said, there were certain characters you always came across. So I don't remember Brian Pillman ever being one of those guys that I saw in ring. Maybe I caught him in like Battle Royals or something. But I always knew the name Brian Pillman, even long before WWF. Early, like 90, 91, 92, I knew who Brian Pillman was. Because we had the Bengal Shorts WCW Galoob figure. And outside of Sid Vicious, I probably would have said that Brian Pillman Galoob was probably my favorite go-to Galoob figure. Yes, Rick Steiner was a better figure, followed by Ric Flair. Rick Steiner, Ric Flair, basically the same figure anyways. But we never had the Sting. I never knew the Sting figure existed until obviously I started collecting. But here's the thing. Today, when I look at Sting and Brian Pillman, just talking about the Galoob figures alone, they're relatively the same figure. And you would think that Sting, straight, back straight, arms straight up like so, right? Compared to Brian Pillman, where his back is kind of arched forward and kind of like coming at like he's attacking you like a bear or something. You'd think the Sting figure would be better, but even with open hands, I still like the Brian Pillman figure a lot better. When I talked to Net last May 2023, I'm like, hey, when can we expect the Brian Pillman figure? It sucked that it took about a year for the figure to come out because, man, I knew that when this figure came out, I wanted the Series 2 UK exclusive color scheme. And I was able to do that with a few of my Galoob 2-ups. I did it with Ron Simmons. I did it with Lex Luger. If I could go back, maybe I would do it with Sid Vicious and Barry Windham, just to kind of give you a different look than what you're accustomed to. But obviously, with Arn Anderson, I like the dual color. I would have done it. I wouldn't have gotten the black and gray, as I said before. I would have done the Series 1 with mixed color of red and white. So it wasn't just straight red Series 2, but Also, I've talked about the improvements of the rubber from Ram Treasures, and that's helped so much. You look at the rubber here. This right here is not bad rubber for Mil Mascaris, right? But you kind of look at it and you compare it to the Brian Pillman rubber. There is significant difference, and that's how companies should be. You kind of start off to see what works, and you make your improvements as you go along, and your stuff should get better. And recently, I've really loved what they've been doing. The rubber's gotten better, and it's really improved the overall quality of the figures. Brian Pillman, I think, should be a frontliner. I don't think he necessarily wins this tournament, but do I say that this is a round 5 figure? I would love to see him in round 5. Do I think he will make it? Probably not. I think you're probably going to see maybe 1 or 2 Galoobs. You'll probably see 1 or 2 Galoobs in the 5th round, and I think he may end up squaring off against one of them in the 2nd or 3rd round and might get eliminated. If he gets eliminated in the 2nd round, I'm gonna be deeply disappointed because, like I said, I think this is someone I want to see go very far. Round 3 figure, absolutely. Round 4, I think that would be a nice run. Round 5 would be a spectacular run, and I think that's exactly where he should be, in the 4th or 5th round spectrum. Is he at round 6 when we start talking semifinals? I don't think so. I don't think he'll make it that far. It's still an absolutely spectacular figure, one of my favorites. Definitely one of my favorite Galoob figures of all time. And when Ram Treasures came out with this, I could not have been more thrilled. There was probably only 2 other figures that really excited me from Ram Treasures. One I've talked about in the past, Zeus. When that figure came out, I was so freaking ecstatic that I had to come make a video the same day I got that in. And 2 was Sid Justice / Sid Vicious, because that's just my figure from childhood, and that will always be my number 1 go-to figure. Brian Pillman easily wins this matchup against Mil Mascaris. Last battle is... I don't want to say that, not yet. From the Raider Nation, you're going to feature Coco Beware as he does battle against yet another Ram Treasures figure, and that is Iron Mike Sharp. So, kind of comparing this to the Series 4 Hercules LJN figure, not too much of a difference as far as fighting scheme. I think I put Hercules on my top 10 list of worst LJN figures. He is a spectacular looking figure, especially with the whole Roman soldier look. But I put him on that top 10 worst figures because pose alone. Is it the worst pose? Is it still a playable figure? Absolutely, but it could be better. He's basically a DDT and an elbow drop figure. So when Ram Treasures came out with Mike Sharp, I think it's something that could have gone with somebody different, perhaps for inspiration. But I don't know anything about Mike Sharp. I know apparently that he is a jobber, a famous jobber of the 80s. Kind of like your SD Jones. You got two different SD Jones to choose from. There's really only like one name that really stands out to me when I think jobbers that I could think of. And I think of Barry Horowitz of the 90s. And, you know, he beat some guy what was his name? Sonny, I think? Or was Sonny the girl? No, I think there was a guy named Sonny. I think he was like a bodybuilder type. And I think that's how he became famous. It was like a 1, 2, 3 Kid Razor Ramon type of deal. He beat Sonny, and then all of a sudden he's in Royal Rumbles and vying for spots at WrestleMania to win the championship. And Barry Horowitz got signed this big contract to become like a major wrestler for WCW later on. But so I don't know a lot about Mike Sharp, so I really can't say a lot about this figure or about Mike Sharp individually. The face itself, to me, you look at this face, you look at like the referees, it looks very generic to me. I don't see this face and then say, hey, that's obviously this person. I don't know. I can look at most LJNs and kind of give, even if I don't know what they look like in real life, I can look at someone and say, okay, this gives me a general idea of what this guy could look like. Ivan Putski, I could look at his LJN and be like, okay, this is sort of generic, but I could look at the face and kind of picture a real life face a little bit. I can't do that, not so much with this figure. In one of my recent videos, I had the Matt Cardona Major Wrestling Figure Podcast 4-inch bendy figure. And they did what I talked about in the past. They just kind of like put dots on the chest, right, to mimic chest hair. Why does that, to me, look so much more realistic? I don't like this. It looks like dirt. I mean, that's, to me, I've never been a fan of that. And I said before, I kind of said with like Razor Ramon, like, yeah, I grew up watching Razor Ramon, right? I know Razor Ramon has chest hair, right? But if you did not include chest hair on the figure, am I going to be like, oh my God, he has chest hair. Why does he not have a chest hair on the figure? No, I would not say one thing about it. That would not bother me. But it's just the fact that it's part of the design. So, yeah, it's good. So I'm going to question it because of that. Otherwise, if that was never there, I wouldn't think twice about it. I know as a jobber, you're probably looking at it, okay, he's not really intended to be and again, I know a lot of people out there, they do make their own wrestling matches. So people do buy these figures and do wrestle with them. Some of us just buy them for display, for the aesthetics or whatnot, for collecting purposes. But those who do actually play with the figures, if you're going to use them as nothing more than a jobber, play pose ain't that important because, hey, he's going to get beat up and it doesn't matter what his play pose is because he's not exactly going to fight back or anything type of deal. I mean, could that be something that was going through the mind during the design phase? I don't know. And keep in mind, I say Ram Treasures because they're the ones who released the figure, but I understand that they're not the ones that came up with this design. I don't know if Kevin comes up with all of these designs from Print Fury because like Zashman and Sin Bodhi and Tom Veg and all these other really famous customizers, I see a lot of these figures, right? And I see them on their pages or their sites long before I see them on anyone else's site. So it is possible that they're just kind of like branching off each other, taking with these different ideas. So when I say random treasures, it's just because that's where I bought the figure from. And then we've got Coco Beware. The Coco Beware original figure is a fine figure. The Coco Beware figure from Raider Nation is absolutely incredible. And they do not disappoint with the graphics, with the choice of color scheme. I mean, this is an absolutely flawless design everywhere you look. And I even added a championship belt here. I mean, was he ever hardcore champion? No, but this is at a time when I tried throwing belts on all my figures, regardless of what they were. 99% of the time, yes, I tried to put championship belts on figures that they actually had. If they were Intercontinental champions, bam, throw an Intercontinental championship belt on them. If they were heavyweight champions at one point, bam, tag team, same thing. But you end up with like these random belts, European champion, hardcore champion, what have you. So it's like, okay, I don't know who the heck was, or what hardcore champion even means for that matter. So I got a hardcore champion belt. Down Terry Funk, but he's got like a ECW championship belt, I think, or whatnot. I don't know. So I just find a figure that I like it and throw some belts on there. Yeah, a lot of these figures, you're gonna have these weird hands and positioning, like Terry Funk. I never liked the whole arm back here, but when he holds the branding iron, it makes sense. And it took a bad figure and made it so much better once you throw that branding iron in there, because it shows you why the arm positioning is so bad. Same deal with Coco Beware. Once you throw Frankie in there, the positioning of the hands, it kind of gives you like that look like he's dancing too. So it could be worse, but it could definitely be much, much, much better. This to me is an absolute wash. Coco Beware. This is a round 3 figure. Round 4, I say so. Round 5, I would not be opposed to seeing this figure in round 5. Does he go 5 rounds? Probably not. I think if anything happens, he might end up going against someone like Honky Tonk Man from Raider Nation. And if it's Raider Nation Honky Tonk Man versus Raider Nation Coco, we pretty much know who's going to win that battle. But this is a spectacular figure. And for the longest time, I would have argued probably one of my top 10 favorite figures that I owned. But 325 odd figures, yeah. It's hard to keep in the top 10 from that. It's definitely a spectacular figure and worth moving on to round 2. Well, that takes care of episode 38. That leaves approximately 2 more videos to go to conclude this round. And yeah, I will be back tomorrow with the next video. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. And until then, goodbye, everybody.